Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fuck Wellness. I'm Makena.
I'm Mallory.
And I'm Lara.
And welcome to Spooky October.
Ooh.
That
was trying to be like, the door creaking, like.
That's pretty good.
Hey, thanks.
I like it. You should consider, that, have you ever seen those videos of people in movies doing the background noises where they're
yeah,
it makes me really uncomfortable.
Why?
We're now just a sounds podcast. We actually have no content other than just sounds for an hour.
Words.
Try and guess what they are.
Put us on the back of your Halloween party.
Yeah.
Background noise. Oh man. I could not be more excited for October.
No.
I truly
Impossible.
It has kept me going. The thought of October.
It's making my heart beat.
Would you say it's your favorite month of the year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, you're asking me kind of.
No, fully my favorite month of the year.
I think I'm still September girl.
Yeah, September's nice. It's.
I mean, we love September because of Mal's birthday.
Yeah.
Also have a lot of people in my life who are September babies, an absurd amount. So I appreciate for that.
We're called Septies.
Let's workshop that a little bit more. Actually,
I made it up on the spot, so I
feel like that could be a slur. Honestly, I'm a little nervous about it.
Well, if it is, I'm gonna Urban Dictionary it after to make sure.
We can still claim ignorance.
Yeah. I want to be clear, unaware of any current problematic aspects to that word.
Yeah. No, September's fine. I do big time slut for October. I'm not gonna lie.
I knew you were gonna say that. We're gonna call this episode Sluts for October.
Actually.
I mean, if it's true, why would we hide it?
Okay, I think that we should say our theme first.
Okay.
And then do updates.
Ooh,
or maybe tie our updates into the theme.
I like the way you're thinking.
Yes, you can.
No, actually, there's an angle here.
Lara, I think you can. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an angle.
Okay.
There is an angle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll try and find it.
We don't know if it's 90 degrees or obtuse or acute, but there is an angle.
I was honestly talking about angles. I had to talk someone through using a protractor the other day, and it was really a throwback.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, you know what I found? I was
Mm-hmm.
doing a team building activity with my team, and I had my notebook out, and I had to tear a bunch of papers out for them to use. And I found all this math work in my notebook.
Nice.
And I was like, no, Lara, this is your math work, by the way.
What?
No, listen. So I was stunned when I saw this math work, because I literally was like, who has been writing equations in my coaching notebook? Who is this? Because it was a little bit startling. Is this bad equations? I don't know. What could the equations be for? I haven't worked on equations in a long time. Okay. And then I realized the dots clicked, and I realized that you had used my notebook, I think, at some point over a year ago. And
to do some math.
To do some math.
In what context were you just doing some math in the notebook, Lara?
I think this was applying for jobs era. So I think that there was potentially some jobs that needed some math work.
Yeah. Maybe.
Remember when you were taking all those quizzes?
Yeah, that was applying for job era. That was right when I moved to Boulder. I was still kind of engineering question mark.
If a job requires any math, I immediately do not apply to it. So it's just not relatable content to me.
Yeah, that's so fair.
Yeah. Well, that would be really jarring though, to not recognize whose math work is this.
Right. I was thinking about, I haven't tutored in a long time. Who could this possibly be?
Yeah. Interesting.
But anyways, moving along. Our theme.
Okay, let's hear it.
Our theme for October is masculinity.
What? Makena, that's such a good theme. How'd you come up with that?
It wasn't our original idea.
No,
we did come up with this a little spontaneously.
It was. We had a meeting, it wasn't on the docket for the
No,
themes.
it was not.
Oh, but
Although
it's
this
so
is the theme I'm
good.
probably most excited about.
I'm a little like nervous.
Why?
Well, I was just when I was on the toilet before we started recording. I was thinking about how my first reaction when we decided on this was that I'm not qualified to talk about masculinity. And I've like really had to like process that feeling a little bit, because immediately as soon as we came up with it, I was like, oh, we can just have Ryan on the pod and I won't have to like think about it really. But then I've been sort of like, well, why do I feel that way?
I feel that way also.
Yeah. We can dig into it a little bit more, but
we'll dig on in as we do.
Yeah. Okay. Quick updates.
Oh, mine isn't going to be quick, so someone else go first.
Oh man, I can go. Or Mal,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about your big bike ride today?
No.
Okay. Not fun.
Very fun.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, but tie it into masculinity for fun. That's our challenge of the day. We have to tie
that's easy for me. That's really easy.
Well, I'm saying it for Lara. I'm just reminding her that
I remember, you guys.
Yeah, okay, updates. Nothing much has changed since my last update. I'm still doing all my normal work things. I have been dating quite a bit more than I had like in the past few months. Yeah. Largely not fun though. I want to be clear about that. Largely not fun. Takes a lot of emotional energy. It is not, I don't know. It's just like draining a bit. And there are a lot of different layers in the dating world that I will table for another time. However, this morning I just went on a date that was really fun and really encouraging. So that is a good thing. In all of my years dating, I have not met a more emotionally intelligent man, which is very, very, very fun and like refreshing to be around. And I'm not going to share like too many details because I feel like this is like one of those situations where I'm like, I don't really want to like spill the beans on things that like are very not like, I don't know, just like so I just got back like a couple hours ago, so I haven't even had time to like process myself.
But she is glowing. Like I just actually do feel like we need to
I
add
think that's
that
just because I'm
here.
hot. But just kidding.
Just because
you are
October,
hot, but
it's because it's October.
Yeah.
No. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't want people to think I'm conceited. That was just like a funny joke. Haha. Anyways, no, I had a really good time. I really like he was a very good listener. I felt like it was a very safe space. There was like a lot of fun involved as well. Like it wasn't like so, because I think sometimes with like very emotionally intelligent people can be easy to be like talk only about heavy stuff or like harder things. And so it was like a nice just balance of like fun, and I didn't feel drained by it. And we were together for like quite a few hours, which is a big deal for me. Usually I feel pretty drained being around almost anyone except for like you guys. No offense if you're listening, but there's like people that are my friends that I feel fine around, but like there are like in just like everyday like situations I feel drained to be around people sometimes. And I had another thought about this situation and that it is leaving me, but
can I have a quick poll? Was there any physical touch?
not very much physical touch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, but I will say that that's kind of been like the vibe of first dates. Like it's pretty like cash. I mean, I did like a couple like, like you talk now and like I touched him. You know what I mean?
Nice,
like
nice,
no.
nice.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And the classic move, but yeah, not very much physical touch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take this part out, but I think can we actually I'll tell you guys later. I don't want to cut it out.
Because the YouTube will hear it.
True. And yeah, I think one thing that I'm struggling with that like I am very aware of is when you meet like a good man, like because I feel very like sometimes pessimistic to the fact that there are like good men, and I know that there are, like Ryan is one.
I might supposed to be
know
like,
that
yes,
there's at least one.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, he
Yeah.
is. He's great.
And that, yeah, I mean, there are others too. They're not coming to the time. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Can you really think of any?
No, but I think like there is sometimes this like level of like when you feel activated, like when your nervous system feels activated by someone, there it can be, I think, misconstrued as attraction and like especially with me who has like a very anxious attachment style, like I like want more, you know? And I think being around someone who is like so secure with themselves and also just like the way that he communicates was very clear. Like I knew if he wasn't having a good time, he would straight up tell me. Like he like very strong kind of like boundaries in that sense. It's like funny to see how my system is reacting to it because it's not reacting. Like I just feel like very safe and like it was just like an enjoyable time. And I'm excited to like see him again and see kind of like what else develops. But a part of me is like, oh, it's just like normal. Like this is like what your system should feel like when you meet someone. You know what I mean though? Like
Yeah,
it's not like disrupting my life in like a way that's like I can't go about my responsibilities, you know, even though I'm still thinking about it. I don't know, it's like a funny like little balance.
Well, I
You know what
remember
I mean?
Lisa Haim talked about that, how like the measure of a partner who is compatible with you is how your body feels around them, and that the goal is like to feel just
Neutral.
comfortable. Yeah. Basically
Yeah.
neutral. And but I
Yeah.
do think that can sometimes like that can project as no sexual attraction.
Yeah.
Because we think of sexual attraction as being this like animalistic,
Intense.
primal, intense passion.
Mhm.
And when you're with a person that makes you feel really comfortable, sometimes you just like want to melt into them rather
Yeah.
than like all of the passion. And it
And
reminds
to be
me of
clear though,
that
I don't
book
want
we
to
read.
yeah, I don't want to say that they're come as you are.
Well, just that sometimes in relationships, you have to like build the tension if you're in a really
Yeah.
comfortable,
Mhm.
safe relationship,
Mhm.
because otherwise, like you're not building that environment for the passion. If your goal is to like have the passion, then you kind of have to build it because you feel so safe.
And I want to be clear with like with this situation, it's not like there wasn't a like physical
Yeah.
attraction. And yeah, I'm excited to like continue to see how it develops and all of that. But I am someone who has had multiple relationships that are like very like we meet together and we like, you know what I mean? Like very intense physically like that. And so yeah, it's
Can
like
you
a
maybe
different
go
change of
into a little
pace.
more detail about that for the listeners?
The boom part? What do you want
Yeah,
to
what
hear?
does the boom look like for you?
There's only an explicit warning on this podcast. It would have to be like extra explicit. I can't go into it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I thought you were joking. Are you
NC-17.
actually asking me about it?
No, I'm mostly joking, but I wanted to see what you would say.
Yeah, I don't know. So I do feel like, I mean, even just like the communication after our date, like it was very like clear on his intentions. Like, I'm excited to see you again. Like kind of like very, I don't know, like predictable, I don't think is bad. Not predictable, but just like thoughtful and intentional and
Intentional,
like,
yes.
yeah. And just like clear.
This made me maybe I've told this joke already, but Arlington transportation, their motto is be a pal, which stands for predictable, alert, and lawful. And every time I see it, I'm like, get a man who's predictable, alert, and lawful. Like, that's what I want in a man. It's like
Truly.
I always just think about that. I'm like,
Pile.
yes to this.
Predictable, alert, and lawful is the transportation.
Yeah, it's like
How
as a
you should
driver, as a
engage.
biker, as a pedestrian, you should be predictable, alert, and lawful. And I'm just
Nice
like,
marketing.
yeah, I love my men like I love my public transportation. Predictable, alert, and lawful.
Hot.
Sexy.
Also, I think that the more you learn about someone too, like it should be the case where it's like you earn different layers of people, you know?
Yeah.
I think that should really be the case. So all in all, I'm very excited to see him again.
Any other updates, Ken?
No.
Okay, I'll give one masculinity related update. I feel like I've been in sort of a phase of my life, because I'm engaged, of thinking much more critically about what this is relevant.
No, every
Don't
time you
laugh
say
at me.
like mention being engaged, I'm like, what?
It
Congrats.
Oh,
Who
did I
let you
forget to
be
tell
engaged? Feels very like okay, sorry, continue, Mal. I didn't
No,
mean to.
because it's on my radar, I feel like I've had the space to think a lot more about what gender norms at a wedding, like at a reception and a ceremony,
Oh,
like I
yeah.
want to keep versus I want to get rid of. And I think that has been hard because I'm not a very traditional person, and I ideally would throw like most of them out, but you know, like partnership is all about compromise. And this is also not saying like Ryan's like super traditional person, but I think that has been sort of a hard part for me, because I also, and I've talked about this on the pod, you know, my mom was a huge second wave feminist, and I feel like her motto growing up was always like push back on men and like men in positions of power, and like women want to be where men are, you know. And I feel like I am trying to get to the place where I'm like, my version of feminism could be liking the traditional things too. Like maybe I do like the idea of a white, I'm not saying I do, but maybe I like the idea of a white dress, even though to me, I'm like, God, but that's a sign of like virginal purity. Like I don't want to wear a white dress, you know, because I'm such a contrarian. So I think it's been this balance of trying to figure out what aspects of like the gender norms at a wedding I really like and value and want to keep, and which ones I want to push back on or recreate. And like what part of that is my own beliefs versus like societal cultural beliefs about weddings. So that's my masculinity related update, because it's just, yeah, it's an interesting phase to be in. I have not spent very much of my life thinking about this. So it's definitely a new thing.
I feel like we should clarify before we keep going too about like what we mean by masculinity.
I don't know.
Can we do
I
that?
don't even know what masculinity means.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess more so I meant like in clarification, like we're not saying like masculinity equals men.
Oh, no.
I guess.
I'm more even, I don't know. When I think of masculinity, I think less about that and more like gender norms and like the societal presentation of norms.
I just wanted to make it like uber clear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. And in my head, it's like masculinity and femininity are just like the presentation of the gender norms that our society has created.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like quite.
I was like, I don't know the definition, so let me just make a perfect one.
I feel like that's just what I think about it is in my head, but I'm sure someone else would have a much more like relevant definition.
Yeah, I know in the past too, we've talked about like in my space using like hard and soft energy as well to like describe maybe like a rebrand of masculine and feminine.
If anyone heard that, Ryan is throwing this goldfish bag all over.
Yeah, I think it's good to like define that stuff, because I think like, I mean, I would be interested to hear like the breakdown of like the actual words. Like what does, I know mask must relate somehow to like man.
Do you want me to look it up?
If you can look it up, I don't know how
Why
to.
do we never do this
Google
before
that?
we record our solo pod? We all
bad.
get on and we're like, I actually don't even know what this theme means.
Yeah. But I like that. I agree with that like masculinity might be more of like the action that we socially like put on a group of people, I guess, if that makes sense. Like,
I mean, the first thing that comes up is like very much like masculinity equals men. It's like, it says qualities or attributes regarded as characteristics of men.
So
which is like,
why am
I
I
don't
like,
feel like it's,
if it includes men, X,
yeah,
that
no, literally,
definition?
like, I don't feel like that's what we are, the kind of I mean, part of it, obviously, but
Yeah.
masculinity, also called manhood or manliness, blah, blah, blah.
I guess that's not really what I even think. But when I'm
I like
thinking
your
about,
Okay,
definition more
here,
now.
look, this one says masculinities and femininities refer to the social roles, behaviors, and
Mhm.
meanings prescribed for men and women in society at any time.
Okay, that's great.
So yeah,
Perfect.
but I mean, it still says men and women. Like,
No, but that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's like what we meant. But uh Mal, talking about that whole thing, like there's so much, like I noticed this so much when I was working weddings, is that like there's like tradition in weddings is so gendered, and even
yeah,
like there's so much that you could be like, I don't like this, I don't like that, but like I think it was the episode with Steph and Emily where Steph was talking
Yeah.
about marriage and like like I mean marriage has a horrible past and yet we
Yeah.
still get married, and like rings literally were symbols of ownership for property and we still have
Yeah.
rings on our fingers, like you know that
Yeah.
like whole thing where we can all agree that like there's so many messed up parts of it, but like hopefully now it's been like rephrased, like I don't see that as like Ryan owns, you know, like
No.
that's not
Well, and I got him a ring too, honestly, for that reason, is I did know the tradition of it. And I was like, well, if this ring is going to serve as, you know, a symbol of ownership, like, boy,
Yeah.
you wearing one too. No,
Yeah.
but I think that's a good point, is my like temptation is just like to throw the whole concept of a wedding out, but I've been trying to work on like what aspects, and this is of course me as a white person saying this, so I think like even reclaiming something as a white person is different, but I've been thinking about like what parts of a wedding can I reclaim and make it into my worldview and like make it not as heteronormative. But it's really hard because so many of like the most basic traditions of, you know, a father walking the daughter down the aisle just like are rooted in like misogyny essentially. So yeah, but I do think people are getting a lot more creative with weddings, and that has been really fun to watch, is to see how people innovate in align with their own values or whatever things they believe. But I do think it's going to even get better as more and more people are like, wait, why are we doing this thing? So yeah, I feel like I'm on the early end of that kind of, like, I think a lot of Gen Z are just not going to have weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I this morning I was at a coffee shop and I was kind of like sitting close-ish to this one table, and these three people sat down and I had been listening to music, but when they started talking, I was like, I'm gonna take out my AirPods and definitely snoop right now. But it was basically this couple and their wedding officiant, and so they were having like a meeting of like, how do you want this ceremony to go down? And like the officiant person, it was clear that they didn't really know the couple. It was like this very cool looking, like visibly queer person, and they were talking to the couple and being like, I do this quite a bit, like, and I want to know what readings like from this packet you like. So they were all like reading through this packet, and then they were talking a lot about language, and I think that maybe one of the readings like mentioned like a soulmate, like finding your soulmate. And the officiant was kind of like, I don't know if you like this one, like mentioned soulmate. Sometimes people have like really polarizing view of the term soulmate. And one of the people of the couple was like, yeah, I don't like this one. Like, I don't, you know, I think your soulmate is like your soulmate that you end up with, I guess is what they were trying to say, is like there's multiple soulmates that you can choose from, but my soulmate is the person who I've chosen to end up with now, this other person. I don't know, it was just so interesting because it was clear that like they were talking through ways that their ceremony was gonna be a ceremony, like it was gonna be a wedding, but they had decided, I don't know, in cis weddings, is it like the female stands on the left? Is that how it usually works?
Facing which direction?
Like stage left or something?
If you're the audience, yeah, they're on the
Okay.
left.
So the couple like was talking about like having that switched, or like when the officiant was like, do you want me to say you may now kiss your bride, you may now kiss your partner, like how do you want me to phrase this? And it was just so funny to have them like, they like working through all of the traditions as we're saying, and being like, this is what I want, do not say that, like
I
it was
love that so
That's so
much.
cool.
yeah, it was a really cool conversation to eavesdrop on.
Wow. I just think those conversations are so important. And
Mhm.
honestly, I feel like part of me gets a little stressed though, because I think I forget all of the things that are like, I forgot about the now you may kiss your bride. And I'm like, I don't really like that part. So there's
A
so
lot
many
of people
things
say like you
think
can now
for.
kiss each other or something.
You may now make out in front of everyone.
I mean, it's better said than you may now kiss each other, but
And
you know
now
what I
you
mean.
may lick tongues with each other.
And now with all of your loved ones watching,
Yeah.
kiss.
Suck face.
Blech. Something I did want to add from my story earlier that is like a really interesting thing I'm going to journal about is like, I do feel like I have a very strong, like I'm very connected to my femininity. And I think that when I'm with men, I usually don't feel it. I feel very disconnected from my femininity because I feel like I have to like control the situation or like be alert in ways that doesn't allow me to like express myself. That's like a very small portion of what it encompasses, but essentially like I think because when I don't feel safe most of the time, like emotionally or my nervous system, whatever, like I tend to like damp that part of myself, I think. And today, like I got home and like right before we recorded, I like literally wrote down because I was like, what am I feeling? Like I'm feeling something and I don't know what I'm feeling. And what I'm feeling is like, I feel like very strong in my femininity right now, like in this moment. And today, like I just feel very like strong and secure and like that feeling is overwhelming me. And it's an interesting thing. I do think it's as a result of the date I went on, but I don't think it wasn't because it was like this person was like, and now you are safe to express yourself. You know what I mean? Like it just was, it's an interesting thing.
Do you think that it would be different if you started seeing women or non-males?
Yes. Yes and no. I think that like I have kind of like a weird when I like okay. I don't know if I want to talk about it, but basically like when I have like two different it's like mindsets in a way. Like I feel like I engage with women in a very different way than I would engage with men
In a dating setting.
in a dating scenario.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of know I know what it is. I know what the differences are. I just don't really want to say it on the podcast.
Okay.
Laura, are you mad at me?
No, my God, no.
Okay, I just feel like that I didn't know if that was like a wrong thing to say, but I know, yeah.
No, that's totally, we do not have to talk about that. I'm trying to think about how I feel like I'm sure that there are different ways that when I was dating women and men, I was engaging with them, but I also just think my normal way of like dating or like texting or messaging on Hinge or whatever, like that you find yourself doing, Ken, it's just kind of like I go the silly route, I think. I just go like let's just poke fun first and then I don't know. So I guess I was just trying to think about myself. No, I'm not mad at you, of course not.
So I don't think it's in the way that I like first message someone. I think it's in the way that my self energy feels. Like
Okay.
I feel more comfortable. I think like even in real life, like if I'm like, cause there have been times where like I'm flirting with a woman and I feel like in real life, I feel more comfortable taking maybe a more like, I don't know how I feel. Like, I feel like with men, I kind of let them lead. And I feel like with women, I'm more comfortable taking a bit of the lead.
Mm. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
That makes
obviously,
sense.
who knows? So
Yeah, maybe we'll find out.
maybe.
Stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned.
All right, Lara, I think we're ready for your story on the edge of our seats.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So this story does maybe get a little graphic. So if you are not like into health stuff, like I'm not going to get super graphic because I don't really like talking about health problems and health stuff that much. It makes me sometimes kind of queasy, but if you are not into that stuff, I will not be offended. Please just skip ahead a little bit. But basically, I have had a copper IUD for the last, I want to say 6 or 7 years. I got it. Mal, you had one. You got yours switched out for a different kind. I've just had it for so long, and it is what it is, right? Like it's a give and take in that, like
brutal at times.
right, that's the give. Copper IUDs are really, really brutal, and I'm sure if you've ever heard the term copper IUD, it's probably come with some kind of a horror story. Anyways, but I chose to do that 6 years ago because I was like, my body can't do hormones. I need to not do hormones anymore. So whatever, it is what it is. I got the copper IUD. Insertion, extremely painful, right? Like really rough. Had a friend, Bestie Caro, thank you for your support, but it was a rough day. Anyways, fast forward like 6 years, it did its job, right? Like I never got pregnant, thank goodness. I know some people do get pregnant on IUDs, but I was having sex with penises. I did not get pregnant. At this point in my life, I'm like, it's really brutal. One, so I've been thinking about wanting to take it out for a very long time. I also, I use a Diva cup. So every time that I'm finished with my period, I will always like check the wires of my IUD to make sure that they're still there, because I can feel them like at the end of my cervix. And like about 3 months ago, I checked, because like they always are like, be careful for your menstrual cup, it might suction out your IUD. So I checked my wires, I couldn't feel them. And I started to freak out because I was like, either my IUD has been sucked up inside of me, or it fell out or something. So whatever, fast forward, I got my appointment to get my full like checkup. So I was like, I need you to check out my IUD, and then I want like the full STI, STD screening and breast exam, which, fun reminder, feel it on the first. If you need a tutorial, I made a very cringy one at one point.
We'll repost it on the first.
No, that tutorial is so helpful, Laura. Like,
I
I'm not
agree.
kidding.
Thank
It
you.
taught me how to do it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when I got it this one time, the provider was like very like, did a lot of these feelings, which I was like, oh, that's a fun new little one that I'm gonna try. But anyways, yeah, sorry if you're listening. I was making just like little like movements with my hands. Anyways, so I get
Like
all of
jazz
that
hands.
done. Yeah, like little slow jazz hands on boobies. Give it a go. And so whatever, I get like, we do the whole like intake of like, oh, so talking about, it's fun to like talk about your sexual activities with like middle-aged people. It's kind of funny. Anyways, we did the whole checkup. I'm like, can you check for my ID? She's like, for sure. She goes up there, she's like, I don't feel it, I don't see it. It might have fallen out. I was like, I don't think it fell out, please try again. And so, and because I could feel like there was something interesting going on somewhere, where I could feel something like maybe where the wire had like curved and then like something had grown over it. I could feel that feeling. And so I was like, please go up there again. Really go for it. It's there. Like, you'll be able to feel it. And so she goes again. She's like, okay, I feel what you're talking about. That is possibly your IUD, but I need you to schedule an ultrasound so that we can look and make sure that the IUD is in there. And then we'll do like an ultrasound guided removal of your IUD. And she was like, I think you need to like schedule that ASAP, honestly, because the fact that I can't feel it, like, we just need to get you in ASAP. So anyways, we schedule it for like the next day. So I'm in the next day, and it's like, I'm really, really nervous, because like there's a pain of like that I so vividly remember of when I got my IUD put in, and I knew that pain was going to happen again, and possibly for longer this time. And I was so nervous, and like, I don't know, I just, the whole night before, I was like, really had a hard time going to sleep, because I was like, I'm so scared something's going to be wrong. Fast forward to the appointment, we go in, Kai's with me, we're like trying to make the situation light, whatever. And they come in, and like the IUD's in there. It's not like grown to the side of my cervix or anything. The IUD's in there. And so they go in to try and get it. And with all of their tools, they literally spent 20 minutes inside of my cervix trying to like coax the strings out so that they could pull my IUD out. Dude, at least 20 full minutes of like the worst pain ever. And it was uncomfortable to the point where I was like, I was sweating a lot. I was cursing. I was squeezing Kai's hand so hard. Like,
I understand.
Like, I was having a hard time. And then about like, with our last 5 minutes, they kept checking in with me too, which I so appreciate, is like all 5 of them were like so encouraging, like kept being like, do you want to keep going? We can stop. Do you want to keep going? And I kept being like, do it. Just get it out. Like, I do not want to come back in here. Get it out. We're trying. The Stephanie, or I should bleep out the name, sorry. The provider was like, I'm going to go in with one more tool. This is the meanest tool of them all. Like, this is not going to be good, but this is possibly the one that will get it out. And so I was like, just do it. Goes in, literally like the kind of pain that like sends shivers down your spine, like into your butthole. I feel this pain. And puts it up there. I'm like in agony. And she takes out, she's like, I have to stop torturing you now. Like, we're going to schedule like a procedure to go in and like do this surgically so that like we don't torture you anymore. But basically, like, I could feel it with the tool, and I could see every time that they went in there too, I had the whole like screen of my ultrasound right in front of me. So I could see that they were like hitting the IUD and moving it around, and my tissues inside in the ultrasound, you could see them all like getting tugged and tugged around, and they still couldn't get it. But yeah, it was pretty horrific. I think I bled a lot, and I continued to bleed quite a bit for like the next like 3 days as well, which is really annoying. And I had to go to work that night, which is also not good. Like, I should have called out fully, but I just felt like I didn't give enough warning, and I should have known that it was going to be horrible. But I honestly thought, I was like, maybe they're just going to find the string and yank it out and I'll be good to go. But that's not what happened.
Lara.
Dude, I know.
I mean, I think the whole IUD insertion and then them taking it out, it's probably like, what, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes. I would have passed out probably.
Were
you blacking out at all?
So I wasn't blacking out during, but right when they, like, 5 of us in there trying to get this bitch out, it didn't go out. Once they left and I sat up, I kind of saw like the waistband, and I was shaking at that point. That's when I was most unstable, and that's when I was most thankful that Kai went with me, because honestly, no, I was most thankful that they came with me when I was like in the excruciating pain, but I was really, really thankful to have like someone to drive me home, because I was like, I don't think I could have driven then. Especially like I had to drive kind of far away to go to this appointment. Like I was so shaky on my feet. Like,
also, they didn't give Lara any shots of pain meds.
That doesn't surprise me, but
that's insane.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to do that, and I'm just really.
I got shots when I got my IUD though, and it's still.
Yeah, I didn't do that either.
I don't think that's normal.
I think maybe if they like are thinking that it's gonna, I don't know, maybe it's just different provider to provider.
Yeah, I've never heard of anyone get an IUD getting any sort of, maybe because they know it's so fast that they're like, it's going to be really uncomfortable for a few minutes. But I mean, I'm sure they weren't guessing that it was going to take 20 minutes to get it out.
No. When they were talking about the ultrasound, they were like, oh yeah, we'll be good. Like, we'll see it in the ultrasound, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, that's very different than like, I see it on a screen and I can get it with my tweezers. Like, it's just, I don't know.
This is also a quick pitch for people to listen to our birth control episode, because like it's really relevant to this conversation.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be out. Did you schedule the procedure?
Yeah. So basically I had to schedule a consultation with a OBGYN person that does surgeries, I guess. And so that one, the first available appointment they had was early November, and I was like, this is not good timing because my birthday is November 22nd and my health insurance goes bye-bye. And like, I get health insurance through my work, but like I am foreseeing that that's not going to be a seamless transition over to health insurances. So I was like, I was really nervous about that. Luckily, I had been like stalking the website every few hours, and an appointment opened up. So I grabbed it. So I'm seeing my consultation is tomorrow morning for the surgery. So I don't think they're going to do anything tomorrow. I really hope not, because I'm not really prepared to open my legs again.
Are they putting you under?
I won't be, so I don't know what they're going to do for sure, but the person who attempted to get my IV out, she was like, they're not going to put you fully under. You're going to be on all the party drugs, and then they're going to give you a lot of local anesthesia. So probably what what you got, like the injection locally as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that honestly, like, it's so messed up, and I'm sure that there's some connection to masculinity within this belief in my head, but I'm very thankful, one, to go the surgical route because I know that I will be given pain meds, and two, as messed up as it is, I'm like, at least at that point, I will not be able to work around in my brain some excuse as to why I need to go to work that day. Like, given that I'm doing that route, I know that will have to be a rest day, and I can't, it can't not be, right? Because I literally will be on drugs. So like, that I'm sure relates to our theme in some way, that I felt like I needed to go to work for the whole night after that horrible experience.
Completely.
I definitely am going to take Ryan to my next IUD just so he can experience it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing, like, she had in her office a Paragard IUD and the Makena IUD.
Yeah.
Bitch is half the size.
Yep.
Makena is so tiny compared to the IUD. And she was like, if I take this out, and we discussed it, because she was like, do you want me to just immediately, when I get it out, all thinking that everything was going to go perfect the next day, she's like, when I get it out, do you just want me to slip a Mirena up there, like it will be so much less painful than when you got your copper IUD in. Like, let me know. It'll be easy while you're, here to just do that. And I was kind of like, I don't think so. Like, it's not useful for me right now. And I kind of just want to have a peaceful, visitor-free uterus for a second. Like, I think my body needs that.
It's really, yeah, I don't know how to say this. It didn't occur to me that you didn't need birth control, honestly, until like you just brought it up. And I was like, oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see how your body feels.
Yeah. And how my periods are going to be. I'm so curious.
Lara. I mean, they're going to be a lot less.
They're going to be blissful. I know. I'm
like
so
probably
excited,
only
actually.
like 1 cup every 10 hours,
I just it's been so long. I can't even remember what my period was like before the IUD, but I know it wasn't bad. Like, I'm just excited about that. But it was like, it was kind of funny when I was first like chatting with my mom about getting the IUD out, because we had been like talking about it for a long time. And my mom was kind of like, well, yeah, why would you even need one right now? Like, what is the point? And I was like, I kind of had the same moment, Mal, where I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
But I was telling Ken about this because it's just kind of funny. But so like the person who comes in, like this nurse who has to do like all the intake questions, because I've never been to this hospital before, going through like all the questions, and has like, do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you da-da-da-da? And it gets to like the sexual health stuff, and she's kind of like, so what do you have for birth control? And I was like, oh, well, I have the Paragard, but like, that's kind of why I'm here, is like, I'm going to get it removed. And she's kind of like, oh, okay, like, what are you going to use then? Like, are we getting you on pills, or kind of was what she was saying. And I was like, no, like, I don't have sex with penises, so I'm good to go. And she looks at me and she's like, because she had been like, oh, do you have a partner? And I had said yes earlier. And she's like, oh, well, what's the name of your partner? And I was kind of like, Kai, like, why do you need to know? And she wrote it in my file. Isn't that weird?
Under Lara, Kai.
Like, isn't that weird to ask the name? Like, oh, okay, prove it. Like,
I feel like in the conversation with the other stuff, it's weird, but it also could just be background for you, like for your patient file.
Right. And I wouldn't have questioned it if when she had asked, like, oh, do you have a partner? Yes. Okay, what's their name? But the fact that it came up after, right. I was kind of like,
totally.
What?
And I think that's funny too. You had that conversation because when I went into my last OB appointment to just get like my pap smear and stuff, I'm not on birth control at all. And I do have sex with penises, and I'm not on any, I use condoms, but yeah. I remember telling the lady, and I feel like and to be clear, I support birth control. I support access to birth control. I support people being on birth control. I haven't found something that works for me. And so I was like gearing up to be like shamed by this person in a way of like, you're being irresponsible, like blah, 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 which like, whatever, I guess there's an argument for that. But, it was just funny to her to be like, what are you on? And I was like, nothing. And she's like, well, do you use condoms? And I was like, yeah. She goes, that's birth control. I was like, hell yeah. Like, I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. The whole like, it's also, I don't know. I think that the experience, I think that we've all, like, again, listen to the birth control episode, but like, everyone's had their tales, and especially people who have experience with IUDs. Like, I was talking to Carolina about this, and she's so right that like anyone who's ever had an IUD, it's such like And then I was just like, haha, in my own blood in a puddle on the bathroom floor. Like there's so many just like, oh, haha. And then I fainted from the pain because it was so excruciating. Like so many stories like that where we're all just kind of like, oh, haha, like just life with a uterus, like just fun ups and downs, you know, you get to do it. And it's like, yes, you get to have many joys of having a uterus, but there are just so many so many things to worry about and to go through, and the cost, that the monetary cost and just the life cost of having this concern that I do not want to get pregnant in this world right now. It's a lot. And that connects to our theme.
I was just talking to my friend the other day. She had a bit of like a pregnancy scare, and she was relatively recently married, and she's my age, and we were on like a call, and she was like, it's weird being at an age where if I got married and chose to have a child, no one would question it. Like no one would be like, oh, that's weird. Like, why would you have a kid? And she's like, I don't know when I hit this age, but I did, because she's been married for like a year. She is like has a good job, whatever. Not that you need these things to have a kid, but I feel like those are the perceptions that people have. And she was like, it was so weird, like thinking I might be pregnant and having to have like real conversations with my partner about like, so we theoretically could have this kid, like we have enough money, but like it just was weird. And then I was realizing like theoretically I'm also getting to the age, I mean I've been in the age, but it feels, I guess, different when you're like with a stable partner, where you're like, if I got pregnant, I'm sure I would feel some sort of pressure to like very seriously consider keeping a child, even if like that's not the best choice for me. It's just so weird being at this age, like turning 27 and being like, I'm in my late 20s. Like lots of people have had kids at this point that I know.
That like theoretically you have all the other boxes checked, but that doesn't really mean that you're ready still. Like,
but honestly, like from a pro-choice lens, like I think that's when people are like, well, do you have a good reason to have an abortion? And I can feel already, like if I were to get pregnant, I would feel an extra layer of guilt that maybe my reason's not good enough anymore, that I couldn't use the call, like, oh, I'm in college, or I'm not in a stable relationship, or I don't have a job. Like all of those boxes are checked. And I think being in these situations, it can feel especially like, oh, is my like choice a legitimate choice, or am I just like being cavalier with this decision? Which, to be clear, like I don't believe, but I can already like feel those layers of like judgment of like trying to discern whether or not like a reason is valid. So anyway, I think it's like a really weird age and like kind of time to be navigating all of this, especially, I mean, like in the world that we're currently living in. I mean, I think it would have even felt a little different like 3 years ago. So
I even remember when like one of my gym friends got pregnant, and I remember being like, I had to like train my mind to be like, congrats. Like, I was like, so like, oh, okay. Like, or even like, the family that I nanny for, they just had another kid. And I remember when she told me she was pregnant, at the same time, my period had been late and I had been recently having sex. And I remember being like, kind of telling her around like all kind of the same time. She's like, is there a chance you could be pregnant? And I remember being like, fuck, I hope not. Like,
well, that was
she's
like
all excited.
When I went to the doctor and I like took a pregnancy test there, like this was like 4 months ago. And the doctor was like, if I come back and it is positive, like, what do you want me to say? Like, how do you want me to respond? And I remember being like, wow, like, that's a really good question. And I was like, I want you to get me a list of abortion clinics.
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was really cool that she asked, and like rather than just coming back with a positive test being like congrats, she was like curious about it. And obviously I was not pregnant, but and instead she came back with a negative and said congrats. So that felt good. Yeah.
We-
What are we most excited about for this month? Like one thing to talk about masculinity, and then I think we can wrap up.
I'm excited to invite another lens into our conversation. I think that I don't know. I think sometimes when we talk about masculinity, it is in a negative way. And I do think that there is a healthy masculinity. And I think that we all have, aspects of masculinity within us, and that expression of masculinity can be healthy or not healthy, like all other things. But I think specifically speaking to men, I think that we do a disservice to men as a society in terms of like what masculinity means and how we project that and how we treat boys. I mean, not to say, this is like a separate issue from a lot of other things, but I think that there are kind of like in that I don't know, part of life, there are a lot of issues there as well. So I think that I'm excited to kind of talk about those.
I've been listening to the We Are Man Enough podcast with Liz Plank, Justin Baldoni, and I can't honestly remember the third host's name, but we'll put it in the description. And the whole podcast is about masculinity.
Whoa.
And I love this podcast. Like, I really think
What is it called?
Man Enough.
Man Enough?
Yeah. And
have you listened to the one with Alok? That's a really good episode. Everyone should listen to it.
Okay. Yes, I have listened to that one.
That one's really good. Yeah.
I feel like I've listened to so many podcasts with them that I forget which one it was on. But they had a really interesting episode. They really re-aired it with Justin Baldoni and his dad. And it was like this super honest conversation between them about how, like, Justin asking his dad, like, why do you think that you like couldn't be emotional when I was young? Like, where do you think, like, and I feel like we never hear these conversations, and there's just so many really great episodes. There's a whole one on gun violence and masculinity, which is like Ryan sent it to me, and it was like honestly the best podcast I've listened to recently, because gun violence is a masculinity issue. Notice that I did not say like a man issue, because there's so many layers to it. But I guess I'm excited to talk about this because I feel like I've learned a lot from that podcast. And I'm also excited to hear Ryan listens to it, and I'm excited to hear his like more recent growth around masculinity. Ryan just mouthed so good about the podcast.
Yeah.
In case you wanted some extra affirmation. So I've loved Liz Plank forever back when she was making funny reels about Trump. So anyway, that is my hot take. Lara?
Yeah. I am super excited for this month, just because I think we'll be able to have lots of like convos about gender and stuff within it, which I enjoy. And I also think like Makena, I'm really excited to look and talk more about like the positives, I guess, with this theme, because I do think like so much of when I talk in my daily life, like, oh, masculinity, like, saying masculinity is related to gun violence, like like it's an automatic like, oh, masculinity equals bad, or like masculinity equals oppression, or like patriarchal oppression or something. Like that's a synonym in my brain, which I don't think like, I think that there are many good things with masculinity, and many ways that like even myself, like I consider myself quite a feminine person, but like it is fun to like be a little more masked sometimes in presentation, or like have like play around with like those roles, I guess. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good month.
I
Cool.
agree.
Cool, you guys.
All right, pals. Sorry, what?
Nothing.
Oh.
I was going to say something else, but it's going to wait. wanna
Ryan's
say it here
shaving
on the
his
pod.
face, I think, speaking of masculine, not that it's really, but anyway, so that's why I'm muted right now because it's very loud.
Okay, well, say hi to Ryan from us.
Yeah, say hi. All right. Love you all. We'll see you next
Love
week.
you all. Happy October.
Spooky, spooky October.
Woo!